All right, welcome to Friday Live is our FM BetterForms and FileMaker community meetup. Really excited this week. We have a special guest. I saw him present in Berlin in June, and I really like some of the stuff that he's building and some of the different takes. So we have Jeroen Lutmers from Loggix, and he's a developer. He's got a dev house in the Netherlands. He's going to be on in a few minutes, so really excited about that. We'll jump right into things. This week, we're going to be going through some product updates as we usually do. We have a UX nightmare contest. We have a few entrants in that. We'll have a look and a laugh at some of those items there, our special guest, and then we'll finish up with a draw as usual. By all means, please jump in right away with thoughts and questions and things like that. Don't be a lurker, right? We will monitor the chats as well, though. FM BetterForms is starting to do a lot more sponsorship. We're starting to become a lot more active in our community. So we have sponsored some different meetups in the past, and we're going to continue to do that. It's really nice to be able to give back to our community, including this meeting as well. We have a pretty good turnout, 30, 40 people or something like that. And that's really good for a non-profit organization in our community. So we have Reconnect Brisbane that we're not going to be actually attending that in person, but we are a primary or a premium sponsor for that. So you're going to see some swag and some other things like that there if you are going. We have Rome FileMaker Week. We will be there for that one. Sort of decided to cash in some air miles at the last minute, and we're going to attend there and just give a quick presentation. And we're sponsoring the pizza dinner party in one of the evenings, and then Engage You, and we will be there as well with a booth, and that's going to be in Malmo, Sweden, and that is in October. Claris Engage, we will be there as well. We'll be on the 4th floor this year. They haven't got booth plans, but if you are going to Claris Engage in Austin in February, I believe it is, make sure you come by and see some of the team there. We're not sure who's all going to what event yet, but we will be at these ones here. I'm not sure if anybody else has any other plans on any other meetups, but I really do encourage, if you don't get a chance or if you haven't had a chance to go out and meet our community, it really is, I find anyway, personally, it's really motivating, and it makes me want to come up with new ideas and share those things. I'm going to flip things over to Hassan, who's a BetterForms product owner. He basically takes care of organizing all the tasks and deciding what we're all working on as a team, and keeps us in track. So I'm going to switch it over to you to give us some updates.
Yep. Thanks, Charles. I'll switch over here, guys. All right. So I'm here with some of the BetterForms updates. Is my screen sharing? We good here?
Yeah, looking good.
All right, I'll get started. So one of the key new features that we made requested by a lot of people was cloning apps. So now if you go click your new app and you want to create a new app, you can now click My Apps over here and select one of your existing apps. So for example, I'll use my existing app that I have here, and I can use this version, and I can use that as a template now. And let's put all this in. Another key feature, like not a feature, but a minor bug fix here was over here when you switch to client portal, it wouldn't update your domain checker, but that's also happening now. So that's just kind of like a nuisance that was fixed. And now if I click build app here, and right now it's just deploying. And there we go. Now I was able to clone an app. We also changed some of the UX around over here. So this is something new that you guys will be seeing as well. There we go. That was one of the big features. Another one is in our global actions editor. You can now duplicate over here. If I duplicate this, and it made it a duplicate. So this just makes it easier to work around when you're trying to copy stuff over in this editor. There's a lot of minor bugs that were also fixed, such as scrolling, cutting off some places in the editor. If you were trying to scroll, it wouldn't go all the way down. Another one was there's various bugs over here, such as switching to the JSON editor would not have all your data, or it would cut some things out. That's been fixed as well. Another place you guys can see where all our bug changes are is on our changelog. So if you ever click over here on help and click changelog, our newest version will always be near the top. So version 65, and you can see all the changes that were done here. There was a lot of minor changes that were also done, mostly just little bug fixes, and you guys can read them all here. All right, and there's also some major AI changes that Charles will be going over later. All right, thanks, guys. Any questions? All right, I'll pass that off to Charles.
All right. Super. A couple things we did in terms of AI. We're continuing to do to sort of grind on AI pretty hard now. And we had a really, really good, actually, a really exciting talk. Chris Ippolite and I were talking, and with Eduardo, talking about 2 weeks ago, and we were just brainstorming different ideas and strategies and things like that. And we were showing him some of the things that we're doing. And I want to show you just really, really quick. We won't get into it too much because I want to leave lots of time for our guests today. But the main change is now we have fully released AI in almost everywhere in the app. So we have it in about 13 places. A month ago, or even 3 weeks ago, it was only in 4 places within the app. Now, it's accessible from a command keystroke, so command or control period, and you can open up the editor here. One of the big differences now is this AI has access to all of our documentation and all of our forum information. So everything that's ever been posted in our forum, it has access to. We'll periodically every quarter refresh that data. It's not totally live, but it doesn't really need to be either. So you can ask it various things like, Eduardo, what would be a really good example? Maybe the helper file?
Yeah, the helper file or I'll try out OAuth, things like that would work.
Let's try, what is it? Here's a real common support one. What are the helper file credentials? Credentials. All right. One thing you will notice, we are using OpenAI. We've mentioned this in the past, and sometimes the OpenAI, let's see, code generation. There we go. Here's our credentials right here. So you'll find it'll be pretty useful. We've been experimenting, and basically every time we see a Slack support message, we'll pretty much copy it verbatim into the AI assistant and see how well it does. And I would say we're about a 50%, maybe a little bit higher even, success rate being able to answer those questions. We've added some really, really interesting technology. One of these is a variable prompting. So basically, it's a dynamic prompt that we give to the LLM. And we've talked a little bit in the past, and maybe in the next few Friday Lives, we'll talk more if somebody's interested in building that. And we're adding this concept of state and some other things like that as well. And what it allows you to do, or allows us to do, is basically give access to more data and have continuity in the app. So, for example, what I mean by continuity is, let me just go here. The AI actually knows a lot about where you're at. So I'm going to go over to the DOM header insertions here, and I'll say, what can I do here? And it has an understanding of where you are in the app. So you can say, you can add CDN libraries. And just going back to what I was saying earlier, OpenAI, since they released some of their newer models, this service has been questionable. I'm pretty confident that's going to be resolved. That's not an issue on our behalf. But it's something that they'll resolve in time. So I could say something like, what would the library can do? You can use the AI to interact now with the DOM header insertions. You can say, add a library like vCalendar and so on. It'll do that. You can use it for adding things like internationalization now. CSS styling, you shouldn't really need too much help there because we don't really generally do too much CSS. It'll have understanding of the loaders. It has understanding of JavaScript. And also on your page, if I go into a given page here, it has the ability now. Now, this is something that we're just dialing in now. It's not perfect, but it'll do quite a bit still already. So we figured, okay, it's already useful, but it can actually edit your JSON schema, data model, dev data model, and I think that's it for this area here. So there's quite a bit of advancements. Try it out. One thing that we added into the AI assistant, and this is a really important one here, is if I put this is no, this is a bad prompt. Right? I do something like this just for a second here. And let's say I prompt something here. Oh, sorry, I'm in a debugging mode, so don't mind that. You will see it sometimes respond with questions and things like that, and buttons. But let me just say, what is this? Something like this. So let's say I ask it some kind of question, and table provided, so it's current context, and it's giving information on data models and things like that, right? All right. And I didn't like this answer. We have the ability here to vote. This information is tracked. It doesn't just go into an abyss. And then we can look at the prompt and the response, and then we can dial it in. But we really need your help for that, because we already know sort of the nuances, and so we can already prompt it really well. But we need some people to use the AI assistant who don't know what its capabilities are and are not. And that way, by providing that feedback, like so, that'll sort of log the state of your app and what we sent to the model and what we receive back, and then we'll have an idea so how we can adjust it further. One other change I want to mention really quick is about let me just see if I can pull up something quick here. Eduardo has made some changes to our network, and this is kind of a really this is a really bare bones overview, but let me just duplicate this. We have a number of other data centers, and the data centers are in Asia Pacific and in Europe. The Asia Pacific one is in Singapore, and the European data center is in, we used to be in Frankfurt, but we've moved it to Paris because it's a little bit more central to where all of our users are. Now, each one of these data centers needs to get your schema. So it has to have, let me just see if I can get here, go back here. It fetches your schema, and your schema is basically stored in a database, right? As you go and edit it. And in that database is centrally located here. So currently, all of these data centers fetch the schema out of this database, right? That's a separate Redis. The type of database is called Redis, and it's a very high performance, low latency database for storing data, and it serves it out. In the past, Europe and Singapore would have to traverse to this data center here to fetch that data. What we've done, and this will be going live probably later today, all the infrastructure is there, and this is why we had a number of deployments and some the editor was unavailable for a few hours yesterday and last night as well, is we now have a local database with each data center. So this won't really affect anybody in North America, but all the European people and Asia Pacific people will see approximately 100 or so millisecond response time in any call to the freshly fetch something new that you've never visited before. BetterForms internally caches this data, so it only has to fetch it once. But the very first fetch, you're going to see less spinners, basically, a lot more responsiveness. So we're excited about that. That's part of some ongoing network updates. We'll talk a little bit more about it, and we'll let you know when it goes live. It'll most likely be today. It has to sort of stage these deployments. Does anybody have any questions about any of those items? All right. I'm going to flip things over to Michael. Michael, you guys haven't seen in a little while, but he's done some presentations with us in the past. And we have him again, and he's been working on our GUI editor. So take it away.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
The cartoon? Okay. Awesome. So yeah, so this is the drag and drop editor. Some of you have probably seen this in a previous Friday Live, probably around a year ago. But since then, we've done some pretty major changes, and it's become a lot more useful. So I'll kind of demo off some of those new changes we added. So the first thing you might notice is we now have a graphical user interface for editing all of your elements. So now instead of having to look through JSON schema, you can now directly type in any changes you want to your element. So let's say I want to change this field to whatever I want. I can say last name. I can just type it in here and it will automatically update on your preview. Now, all the other fields also have their own kind of input buttons. So for required fields and any other fields that are Boolean, they now just have true or false selectors. So if I don't want this to be required, I can just click false, and that will automatically update as well. So that just kind of makes it a lot easier to edit your elements and kind of moves us more to a no-code UI. Now, I'm going to make some small changes to this page. So here, I don't really like this text to be red. I don't think the red looks great, but I'm not sure exactly what text I want to use. So here, if I delete my text red, and I know I want it to be gray, but I'm not really sure what shade of gray I want. What I can do is in the new class selector, I can type in text gray, and I can scroll through all the different gray shades, and it will update on the UI.
Nice.
And that will allow you to preview whatever class you're applying. And this works for all different classes, not just text colors or background colors. So now you're able to preview in real time all the classes you're adding, which makes it a lot easier when you're designing on the go. And I can select that, and text gray was selected and applied. Now, if we come down here, this isn't a super useful form right now. We only have a last name field. So what I'll do is I'll go and add in a couple more input fields. I'll add an additional one for first name, and I'll also add in another one for email. Now, I want to make some changes to how this looks because my input is in the wrong color. So I can go back over to the class selector, and I can type in text white and apply that right away. Now, the other thing you'll notice is I'm missing a placeholder and the my input text is wrong. So for my input, we can easily change it using the label selector to first name. And here you'll notice that we don't have any field for required. So what I can do is I can go to add field and I can type in required and click add, and it will automatically add your selector here. So I can turn that to true. And then we can do the same thing with placeholder. Add that in, and this will just be enter your first name and email. I'll also make the same changes as well. So you can see by using the UI, it's really easy to make a bunch of quick changes to how your page looks, and adding in new elements is really easy since you can preview them as well. Now, one of the other features that we added is the ability to copy classes between elements. So you'll see down here, I have this little text under the enter raffle button. And this is pretty small and it has a bit of padding as well. Now, this text below it should be, in my opinion, should be the same as well. So if I click on here, and click on the little paintbrush icon here, this will allow me to transfer over all my classes to this new element just by clicking on it. And if I want to change any other elements afterwards, I can just keep on clicking on those and all of the classes will be automatically applied, which makes it really easy for copying over classes when you add new HTML elements and just want to change a bunch of text. Now, one more small thing is you'll notice in the editor, there's no box for HTML anymore. So now if you want to go and edit your HTML, you can just click on this little HTML icon here, and that will open up a large editor, which you're used to. So I can go and make my changes. Let's say we're no longer giving away $800 and we're just giving away $500. We can really easily make that change and click save, and that will automatically be applied to the editor. And the nice thing about this is that it also shows you what other elements you can use HTML on. So a lot of people don't know, you can also, or your labels for some input fields can also be HTML. So now you can click on that and you can edit your label just like using HTML, which is really convenient when you want to make a bunch of changes. So I can do first name to here, and I can add my classes here. So font bold, just as a demo, and say text gray 50. I can save that, and that will automatically be updated as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all the new changes on the GUI. Hopefully, we'll be able to get this out soon, and you guys can start playing around with it and give us some feedback on if you like it. Are there any questions about the editor?
Jason Wood said, I feel like the add field in the GUI editor should be called add property or element even. That's true.
Yeah, so this whole GUI editor right now, this is just something I designed. Pearson's going to go over this and make a lot more, or make some more changes to it to make it a bit more usable. And some of the wording will probably be changed as well. So that will be changes made really shortly.
Right, Stuart is asking, is the editor available today? No, it's not today, and there's a couple technical reasons. It requires quite a significant base code change, which we're still vetting out. Because our base code doesn't change all that often because it is effectively the operating system for BetterForms. We have to make sure that this one's backwards compatible. It has a lot of features added in, mainly nested groups, and that allows us to put stuff inside stuff inside stuff, and that gives us virtually infinite layout ability. That's the main one. We're hoping to, as Michael said, we're hoping to get this out into everybody's hands to at least play around with it. You'll have to use a special base code for it over this next cycle or two. We're at the point now it's actually fully usable. I don't know, Michael, are there any limitations, do you think?
Not that I've seen. There's a possibility on really large pages that it might be a little bit hard to. I guess the one issue possibly is on larger pages when you have a bunch of elements that are conditionally rendered, it might be hard to toggle those. But that is something that we could possibly deal with as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. I mean, BetterForms is really flexible, right? As everybody knows, you can put calculations on anything. You can pretty much replace the entire schema with code that's coming from your database or calculated in some fashion. So you have a ton of flexibility there. But this editing is actually happening live on your page, right? That's your page, your app, your CSS right inside that box there. So some of the things like conditional stuff or data that's in your page will potentially affect that. So we have to basically either turn that data off or turn off some of those calculations. And that requires a little bit more base code changes as well. How do elements in the GUI editor tie into JS functions? Could you maybe, Alex, could you explain a bit more what you mean by that? Or maybe you're saying like, how would they connect up to actions?
Yeah,
perhaps?
actions or just different logic you have for validation.
Gotcha. So it's all the same elements under the hood here, right? Everything's exactly the same under the hood. It's just, this really and truly is just a wrapper, like any interface, you know, even FileMaker, the UI editor is a wrapper over an underlying database. And something like that enter raffle button, it just has action, so you can run a named action right from there. And
yeah, one other thing I'll add on to that is currently you're able to add whatever actions you want into the array. Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, but
no,
I think in the future, in the future, I'm pretty sure we want to push more towards just calling one named action from the element and being able to edit all of your named actions inside of this GUI. And that way it just kind of gives us one single page which we can edit everything on, and it can simplify a lot of pages as well.
And to the other part of your question, Alex, the things like validation, those are the same attributes. So you still have access to all of those attributes there, just the same.
Excellent. Looks
And
Michael, can
if
you click the add field button again? I just missed the UI behind it.
Oh, yeah. So you just click this add field button. This is just a little pop-up that I added. This again is subject to change.
Oh, okay, so right now you have to know what you're looking for. There's not like a type ahead or a
Yeah,
pop-up.
there are some possible options we can explore. Like there's a possibility we can add a drop down with a bunch of different fields, that you can add, which is something I was thinking of. But just for demo purposes right now, you have to know what field you want to add in ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that would be huge because right now you kind of, unless you remember, you have to refer back to documentation and sometimes even go to third-party documentation, right? If there was like something you could pick from, whatever's available, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Great, looks good.
So at the moment because I know you've demoed a GUI for like, I don't know, even months, maybe even last year. So at the moment, there's still no GUI available for us to play around with. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And to be quite blunt, I think our AI is going to surpass this interface. Like this will come out. We're planning on putting this in. It's available in dev right now, but we're planning on putting it behind a flag in production this month, because it's all there now. But AI is going to replace a lot of stuff. And I think if we can continue to grow at the same rate in the AI side, you'll be editing your page from your live page, like that kind of a feel, instead of opening the dev tools, you'll open up the editor and interact with the page. That's where I see all of the industry moving to.
Yeah, the biggest problem I have now is if I start editing a page and I accidentally enter an extra character somewhere, finding that syntax error is almost impossible. And I end up a lot of time just going back to a previously saved page and starting again because I've added a comma or a bracket or a parenthesis or something somewhere that has broken the page, and finding it is almost impossible in a complex page.
Right. Don't forget you can look for the little red X as well. But I know what you mean. So that's
sometimes there's no red X and the
page
page doesn't work.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's something where the AI is going to be able to help quite a bit as well, because it can check your syntax and say, hey, this is kind of not right. We were looking at some ideas for AI where the AI basically functions as a big brother overlooking you and interacts, and it's a pair coding kind of an assistant where it's going to give you suggestions without you asking it. That's where we're trying to build into. All right, awesome, Michael. Thank you. That was great.
Charles, did you just imply that the group within group capability in the next base code is coming in soon?
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
So
awesome.
groups become no longer groups. There's a new element called group, and that element has a key called fields, and then it can turtles all the way down from there. And that gives you a ton of ability. And there's also a visible tag, visible key on groups as well on that element now.
Awesome. Now, or you mean like?
It will be. Sorry, this is in the next version 3.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm going to flip things over to Pearson, our UX designer. And we wanted to try to do some fun things in our community. So we're going to every quarter run some different contests. This is the first one, so we only have a handful of entries, but that's okay. They're still pretty fun nonetheless. And did you want to share your page or?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
All right, awesome.
Charles. Yeah, so just to preface, we started off introducing this contest. We call it our UX Nightmare Contest, where we asked everybody what their just to share some experiences, whether it's them maybe reporting on their own software that needs a touch up, or just anything that they've come across, anything that makes you just want to tear your hair out in terms of the user experience of it. We thought that'd be kind of a fun deep dive into the world of maybe of kind of what I'm dealing with most of the time. But yeah, I'll share. We've whittled it down to a couple of these. There we go. You guys can see my screen. So here we have a classic outdated software, buttons everywhere. There's no labels. You have no idea what you're looking at. And kind of the baseline is, if you don't know what the software is and you take a look at it and you don't know anything, then it's probably a UX nightmare. So it doesn't help that this is also in French. Luckily for me, I can read a little bit of it, but for the most part, this is all foreign to me. Next, this one was, I think this was just a commentary on I'm not sure if it was just the structure of all of these filters and everything, but they submitted this with an arrow pointing to at a glance. I'm not sure if that's referring to the date range as well, but this is just also is a little hard for me to read, although it looks a lot more organized than the previous one.
What I think is interesting here, Pearson, is those are all drop downs. This isn't even a glance view. This is a settings page.
Right. Yeah. So
Right? Because
the page
like,
is misleading.
like there's down chevrons on it, almost every element in there.
Yeah.
And so what is the real problem here? Is it just there's too much information? There's no hierarchy?
There's very little hierarchy. It's hard for me to say because I'm not sure what this is, but just looking at it, this isn't really at a glance unless you're prepared to maybe spend 10 minutes figuring out what you're glancing at. So that's another submission here. Next one, this is similar to the first one. This time, thankfully, it's in English, but even though it's in a language I understand, I still have no idea what I'm looking at. There's just buttons everywhere. There's colors mismatching. I'm not sure what's associated with what. We have a button here. It's in red. Go to schedule. What's the schedule? What is it referring to? One of the main principles of UX is to lump elements together that are related to each other. So when you lump everything together onto a single page, hoping that whoever's looking at it knows what what this is, that creates a huge issue. So something like this down here, it says shipping. I can see that it is boxed here, so I can make the inference that the address, city, state, zip, shipping, whatever, that all has to do with this box. But it is odd that you have this box here, you have another box under here, you have another box under here. It's all lumped, it's all contained just within these gray boxes. For me, when I look at this, I would say, do these deserve their own page? Do these deserve their own modals that are hidden until you activate it? There's these types of features or ways to design something that really help reduce the amount of information at a glance, so that it's a lot more digestible for you to look at and understand what you're interacting with. So these are our top three. And I'm not sure, Charles, were you suggesting that we do a live voting or?
We could do like a here, let me throw up a poll quick if I can. Just one question. Actually, you know what? It's gonna probably take me a couple minutes to do a poll. Maybe what we can do is we can do a thumbs up or a some kind of vote that way. Actually, just put it in the chat. That's the easiest. Just put it in the chat 1, 2, and 3. So this is number 1 here. Well, we're looking for worst one. Two of them are, you can tell, are FileMaker. One is from the external world.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is number 1. This is number 2. And this is number 3. I know what I'm voting for, but it is a bit of a toss-up, to be honest.
This is unofficial numbers here.
Yeah.
But it looks like, I think it's slightly heavier on the 3 side. Interesting, nobody picked 2.
I think it's because 2 doesn't look like a mess. It's just hard to understand when you really try to use it. But at a glance, it doesn't look horrible. It's got a nice, at least it's got a sidebar. It's got some form of navigation where you can kind of see, I can only imagine what these other pages look like if if all of this information is on this at a glance page. But at least there's pages. These other two, number 1 and number 3, there are no pages. It is just everything in the system put onto one screen, and you better hope that your screen can handle that, or that is big enough. Like start date, end date. What are those referring to? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's interesting because, like, you can tell, like, everybody in FileMaker world, this is like, oh yeah, we all got one of these somewhere, right? Even if we don't want to admit it. And I get how it came about. Like, they needed to add a sort button. I don't know what it's sorting over there, but they needed to make it blue because it's brand new, and it just goes more and more sideways. Yeah,
that's kind of how it starts, is that you have like a simple system maybe, but then you need to add something, and then you need to add another thing, and then you need to add another thing, and you just kind of building off of this starting base that wasn't built with the idea of adding more to it, or it wasn't structured to build upon. And so now you just have, you know, however many years or whatever of just new features just thrown at it. Kind of a Jackson Pollock of interface.
Yeah.
And in my experience, the person who's been using that file for years, they do not want it to change because
Yeah, 'cause they're so used to it.
it.
That's actually that kind of that I can relate that to a project that I've been working on recently. It's funnily enough, it's an app for an Amish egg farming community. Surprisingly, they've made an exception for these unique iPads with just this single app used to track all sorts of information about their egg production and their chickens and everything. But what I really wanted to make sure was that I didn't want to change it too much, because they're so used to the system that they have been using that altering it too much in a way that I find maybe more usable or something that makes sense to me, or maybe makes sense to the general public, it won't make sense to them, and it'll actually hinder their ability to use the software. So there is a fine middle ground of keeping staying true to the original, so that you're not reinventing the wheel, or you're not forcing somebody to learn something new that they didn't want in the first place, and balancing that with making it just a little more presentable and organized.
3, I think, is our winner.
Number 3. Congratulations. I think this is Mark Anderson.
No, he's the one above. So
And this one,
this is Christina's.
oh, from
Yeah.
right, from Bioaquatic. All right, great. Well, that's I'm glad that
Awesome.
we're
Awesome.
improving that.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this this little glimpse into the world of bad UX. I think it's just a really fun exercise for me to take a look at this stuff and compare it to, you know, the improvements that maybe I'll make or that I've seen other people make. It's really fun. So thank you very much. And yeah, I'll pass it off back to you, Charles.
All right. Thank you, person. All right. Next, our guest today is Jeroen from the Netherlands. His company is Loggix, and he's going to tell us about some stuff about project management and some software and all kinds of really good stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this. So Jeroen, if you're ready, take it away.
Take it away. Yes. Thank you, Charles. Let me share my screen. Am I sharing currently? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
You guys see my screen?
Looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Charles, and team, by the way, for this opportunity and for bringing the tool as a whole, BetterForms, FM BetterForms. I must say it. The first time I met you in Berlin was probably 6-7 years ago. Then you were mentioning you work on this this product, and I left it alone for a while. But fortunately, we picked it up 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, and I must say it changed our company even a bit. So that's quite nice. Let me make a precondition, or whatever you call it. My native language is not English. I will try to do my best. Second, in Berlin, I did a presentation, and I had to say I'm probably the least technical guy out here. And I want to repeat that today. I'm the least technical guy out here, but I hope you bear with me and hopefully get another insight in how we came to work on a project management system, our own build, to with the use of FileMaker and FM BetterForms. I hate these company introductions always, so I keep it really short, but I do want to put some context in there, right? That's important for FileMaker developers, have context. So I have to bring some context. I started out with my own company in 1995. That's a long time ago. Introduced or actually sold the the Dutch market, Apple computers, service and support on Apple computers and networks and everything that came with it. And one of the things that came with it was, of course, software, FileMaker Pro 2.1, I think it was at the first. After about 7-8 years, I pretty much had it with IT because we had that web bubble burst in 2000, 2001 or so. And I decided to do something else. I started my own food supplement company. And the good thing I took with me was FileMaker. I had the chance to fully rebuild a operational system with everything in it. And up to today, actually, this company is running FileMaker extremely successfully, millions dollar company. And but I sold my share in 2010. Started my third company, actually, I Love, a glasses, optical glasses company, a prescription glasses company. Had that grow to 230 shops in the Netherlands. And the good thing was we had touchscreens in every shop, and the touchscreens were running FileMaker as a little touchscreen software, and that worked extremely well. We were doing thousands and thousands of classes per week, straight from the shop to China and overnight delivery back into the shops and everything. So also a pretty big company that went completely bankrupt, unfortunately, in 2016. Money was out of the window. And when money goes out of the window, the wife also goes out of the window. So wife left me, kids were still there. So I had to rearrange my life a bit. I took a 2-year sabbatical and decided, after some talks with friends, why don't you use your experience in process building, software building? Why don't you try to make a business out of that? So in 2018, I started Loggix, and first in the Netherlands, trying to find people here to join me, to teach them, to make them certified FileMaker developers. But unfortunately, when you teach people and they know their trick, they might run away and start for themselves, right, as freelancers. So that's a bit of a pickle there. So I decided to look a little bit further and ended up in India. A couple of years ago, I opened up a shop there, and nowadays we have a pretty nice, not too big team in India, and doing actually all the production work and everything we have right there, with some partnerships in Vietnam and New Zealand. So that's actually really great, and we're slowly growing the team. We're slowly adding more types of business or software knowledge, like BetterForms. So I really like it. A little detail is that you see the Netherlands over there next to the Loggix logo. It's 80 times smaller than India. And by the way, for the Canadians, we fit in your Lake Superior. Do you know that? So that whole country can be ditched in your Lake Superior and you won't see it again. So Canada is even 3 times bigger than India. And luckily, some of my team members are here today with us, so that's great. And yeah, hopefully in the future you will see more of us. So that's wonderful. In 2018, we're focused on 100% custom software development. That meant we were not building really ugly, but typical, very differentiated pieces of software. The client had a request, we built the FileMaker solution. That meant also a lot of support, a lot of different types of building, and actually something I didn't really like over the years. So in 2020, we decided to go more modular. We built all kinds of modular framework or modules in a framework, ERP framework in actually FileMaker. Did a lot of API connections to that, and our FileMaker started to look like this. Way more organized, with a bunch of and multi-language. So it was much better for us. Our clients have more of the same types of software. If they have an issue, we can fix it. We can fix it in the other modules as well, or the other clients as well. So that was a big step forward. And we build our own huge set of API connectors, much more than you see here. But basically, we take a little FileMaker file, we call it a connector. We put all the intelligence in that file, and when a client needs it, we just grab that file, put it next to the modules, and we can use it. And we have built all these ourselves. We don't use FileMaker Connect. This is way more flexible and way easier to do. Then, yeah, version 3, we still have the modular framework. We still have the API connection, of course, what we want to extend with web and mobile apps, and even started with some SaaS product partnerships where we try to find people in the markets, in specific markets that have a lot of knowledge about that market. They come previously to us asking for a SaaS solution in FileMaker, and every year I said, no way, no SaaS solution in FileMaker. I don't believe that. But nowadays, with FM BetterForms, they're more than welcome, and we are building currently the first 3 really SaaS products in BetterForms, which is great. And maybe if we have some time left, we can show some. Yeah, those are the SaaS, or the actually the web apps and the web applications we're currently building in BetterForms. That's it. That's for the introduction. Then let's try to answer the question, why build your own project management system, right? Well, that is a good question. I'm normally really organized. I wake up at 6 or whatever, walk the dog, eat, and walk the dog at 7:30, 8:30 do my daily stand-up, and then the rest of the day, it's horrible, right? Calls, unexpected server crashes, new ideas coming in, the dog is barking again that he wants to walk. So there's a lot of shit going on, and we are too unorganized. We try to fix that. Yeah, and oh yeah, at around 7 o'clock, I probably need to run for groceries because I'm too late to get some food on the table. We try to fix that. We try to fix that in FileMaker itself. I've done a ton of solutions in FileMaker, making it better, worse, all the way and back again. But it was always stuck in FileMaker, which meant that if you're coding for a client in FileMaker and you have to manage your own project in FileMaker too, it just doesn't work for us. You're closing too often, FileMaker crashes, or you're closing stuff. You want to book your hours, but your system is down again. It just didn't work. So we also tried external programs, right? ClickUp, Monday, Jira, Asana, the whole bunch. And we used them, we tried them, and after a few months I had to say, okay, let's stop it because it's not working for us. They're too complicated or overkill or whatever. So the honest conclusion is probably I'm a really bad project manager. That could be. Or some more friendly conclusion for me could be the project management software that we need is not out there. I don't know. It might be in the middle somewhere, right? So why build our own project management system now again? Because we can. We have FM BetterForms. It's better than before, I think. Instead of using FileMaker only, we can now split data and front end. And I believe that's a major improvement. And besides that, if it doesn't work for us, it's okay too. It's a good exercise. It's a learning curve for our team. So I decided let's do it and see where we end. When you start then building a project management system, there are quite some things to consider. I don't promise you that I won't go too deep, and I won't touch everything, but there are some things I would like to share with you guys. Of course, the standard business process is there is a client request on one end, and we have to come up with an end product on the other end, right? And hopefully for everybody, you can try to do that with a healthy profit at the end. And that is quite a challenge most of the time. Some challenges along the way is that in the beginning, you start out really great with your client on a one-on-one call or meet, and you get the briefing and you try to gather as much information as you can, and then they start to know you a bit and they start calling you with more requirements, and they even know you better. They start mailing you on Sunday that they have even more requirements. And the better you know the people, the easier it gets for them to throw stuff over the fence. If you're unlucky, it's a continuous bombardment of requirements, and that's not what we need. So we need to definitely control the communication and prevent interruptions on a daily basis. So that was one of the conditions that our software should take care of. Then in going forward to the end product, there might be different stages in which you have different resource requirements, and the planning becomes important for you, but also for your client. I think you have to manage expectations here, saying like, okay, do everything very chunky, one at a time. We are now available for this, we're now available for that. So our software that we're building currently should definitely take care of that, to give better insight for the client, so that the client is also a bit more at rest at some moments, right? They shouldn't call us every time, can you do this tomorrow? They should see that that we can only do it next week. Another issue to take care of in the software is the financial situation that many of us probably are in. We need to focus on finance, because that down payment in the beginning of a project is probably taken care of nice and neatly. But then what? Additional requirements coming, there's a project delay. When are you going to invoice? Are we doing it now or later? And maybe even when you think you delivered the product, the last invoice need to be sent out. Can we do it now, later, when? I think that is probably a big issue for a couple of people, and it definitely was for us. And then, yeah, you cannot only talk to your team, only you have to make your clients co-responsible. And the best thing I can say is make sure that you don't start a project where there is no client project manager available. Too many times I've been in contact with a client and everything is nice and cozy, but then suddenly it turns out there is actually nobody really responsible at client side for the project. And if that's the case, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to run into problems down the line. So that's about the process part of things. And I promise you we're 12 minutes in the presentation, a couple of more minutes, and we're close to the demo. But I do want to talk to some the software principles that the development principles we need to follow, or we can follow. And one of the oldest ones, or that's not true, but one that we like most, is the original agile principle. And I say original because the original agile principle was the ability to create and respond to change. That was pretty much the whole story behind agile. There was that waterfall method 30 years ago that was getting projects out there that were running late and later and later and bigger and more costly, whatever. So the agile methodology said, okay, let's do it in small chunks and react to the environment. And Charles was mentioning the editor just now. And AI coming, right? So what are you doing? Are you keep on working on the editor, or are you going to adapt and try to work on the AI part now and let it go, right? So that whole agile part is probably recognizable for you guys when I say Scrum, Kanban, and user stories. The Scrum is a weekly or 2 weekly cycle in which you try to incremental or iterative and incremental try to deliver software. You try to learn from your mistakes. You're gonna be able to change if necessary. And the other one is Kanban, and Kanban was once introduced, I think, by Toyota Motor Company as a more or less production line method that is less iterative, or at least less defined, because basically you say, this is my load of people that I have, my resources, and we can have a certain amount of work in process, and if something is done, I can throw something else in, and whoop, there you go. You just keep on continuously delivering. One other term that we might see in our software later on is user stories. And a user story is what I try to define with my client. Okay, tell me who needs what with what goal, right? So define the user role, what functionality are they looking for, and what do they try to achieve. In this whole process of Agile, Scrum, Kanban, everything goes. One really important part, I think, is continuous delivery. I try to teach the team at least that this is not a continuous delivery piece of software. You can see that if I don't know if you can zoom in actually, but you can see it says project list, and there's one project there, and then a white area, and that's like unfinished. For the same matter, the programmer could have copied that one line and just duplicated down the line and say, okay, client, look, this is what we're working on. Here's the project list. If you present it like this to a client, he or she will definitely understand what you're doing and that you're actually making progress. So there are easy steps to take to every sprint cycle again, try to get really just 1 meter ahead of the expectations of your client. And I think that's an important one. So stay open for change. Again, Charles said the editor and AI, and we have a wonderful example last year or 2 years ago. We were working on an app, and you see here 5 stages in that app is actually a wizard. The user needs to go through 4 or 5 stages of that wizard, and at that moment, when we were building this, I was already extremely unhappy that we had so many screens that the user needed to go through. And then suddenly 1.5 years ago, we got introduced to ChatGPT. Immediately, I canceled that whole production part of that app, and we were left with just 1 page, a chat with help of AI that says, okay, what do you want and what is your next wish? And basically we exchanged 5 pages for 1 page, and that took a change and that took more money, but it was necessary. I don't know how many people out there of you know the Agile and do Agile stuff with teams around you, and then you are confronted with burn down charts, velocity tracking, storyboards, estimates, whatever. That is not my Agile, and that is not what Agile should be about. These are all kinds of control points that were introduced to satisfy the management. This is not what Agile is. Agile means you're flexible. Your team has the opportunity to change, to adapt, to be open and make their own decisions. Burn down charts and velocity tracking. If one of your clients comes with that, say, okay, let's skip it. Or if you're using it yourself, why should you have story points? You only make it less attractive for a programmer to use his free mind, because it needs to be stuck to a target, right? And that's not going to work. So that's not what Agile is about. They introduced it because they wanted to make Agile a product. And if Agile is a product, you can be labeling it. You can be a Scrum Master, and you can be this, and you can be that, and you can be certified and everything else. And that is, to me, not what original Agile was about. So that's the part. The last part I need to discuss with you guys is an estimate, and that is very difficult, right? Every client wants an estimate, but these are the real numbers. If you estimate at the beginning of your project, you're probably 4 times off. So something that will cost $50,000 might run into the $200,000. Something that's gonna take a half year might easily run into 2 years. I'm pretty sure you never go to the green line. You probably pretty much always go to the red line. So if I could advise one thing, don't be tempted in issuing an estimate for a full project. It's not going to work. It's going to kill you. It's going to kill the relationship with your client. Try to cut it up in chunks and estimate a sprint maybe. Make it small, because if you're precise, then you can be accurate, and otherwise it just won't work. So do not plan a project. So don't, because time is money, and money is time. So also, if you don't estimate, you cannot exactly say when it is done, right? Because there are too many things happening on the way. Just show continuous progress. And we have really experienced that if you show continuous progress and the client sees that you're really building great stuff, they will look for budget and they don't hold you to the budget. And that's a really important step. Then some cooperation from you, or interaction with you guys. Who is this? Anybody knows? He's American, by the way. Pearson, you must know, right?
I think Pearson dropped off. It does look a little bit like Brad, though.
No, it's Louis Sullivan, and that's the guy. It's an architect who said form ever follows function, or form follows function, right? And that means what we build should be functional out there, right? And if you see the scissors here, the left scissors probably built and made in the 50s were having a area for your thumb and your fingers, which makes enormous much sense. And then that Walmart or IKEA product on the right, that doesn't cut the cake, right? So form follows function, something that we must really look and consider when we develop. Then, of course, less is more. That's an obvious one. You can see it on the left. It's a mess, and on the right, it's much more obvious. Visual hierarchy, and I will pause the next screen a bit, and please take a look at it, read a bit. And I'm pretty sure most of you guys started with the you will read this first, and then you will read the next line, and you probably read this before the paragraph, etc., etc. So it shows you that these headers, subheaders, are definitely taking your attention. So this is how you should design, right? Use color, use size, use volume in your words and in your capitals or subcapitals. Yeah, that's definitely also important. And then be consistent. And if you find that difficult, I advise you go to one of the theme websites, grab for a couple of dollars, grab a theme. You don't want to use this theme maybe, but you can grab parts of this theme just as an example for your team to say, okay, we're going to use these colors, we're going to use these fonts, and that's called a design system. And when you set up a design system, believe me, where you say, this is the font, this is the color schema, avatars will look like this, a progress bar will look like this, your indicators will look like this, your badges like this, your development will be 4 times faster because there is no discussion on what to use. So this design system you create once, and everybody understands, oh, a breadcrumb should look like this, and if a button has a mouse over, then I highlight with this color, and otherwise I do this, etc. And that keeps stuff consistent, and that's important. Now, almost the last slides. So the thing to consider for us was, okay, the last thing to consider was we're making a project management solution. There will be different sites and different users to log in. So we have to take care of a client login. We have to make a team login later. Currently, what I'm going to show you is the project management part, actually. So we're still, like I said, we're still building the software. But what the software eventually will do is, we saw it before, the client comes with the request, so it will I will discuss with the client about stories. What is exactly what you want? And maybe they have even tickets, and I like to separate those two. A ticket, a bug, something else should not get into your story, into your stories, right? I mean, it's a bug fix. We should have separate time for that. We don't want to confuse that with stories that we have to build. Then I'm going to sit with the team and say, okay, guys, these are the stories. How can we split it up in tasks? Who's doing what? How much time do we need, etc., etc. Then I have to go back to my client and say, we're going to define a sprint. In a sprint of 1 week or 2 weeks, we're going to grab some of these tasks, and that's what we're going to work upon. That means there I had my estimate, right? We can work on this for 2 weeks. Client knows what it will cost, because the tasks were nicely mentioned with hours that we need. And if the sprint is okay, it's set, then we block that sprint and we can start planning. I can go back to my team. I can say, okay, you're going to do that, that, and that. and we plan it. They start working, they book their hours, and eventually I can nicely invoice to the client. So basically, this is the structure I was looking for in the system to cover these bases. Then the last question maybe is, do we build this for Loggix only, or are we making this into a SaaS product because more people like to see or like to see the product or want to work with a product like this? We're not there yet. We started out building it as a SaaS, so under the hood it's a SaaS product, but for now we're only using it for ourselves. If there's any interest, please let me know. Before I go to demo, any questions so far? It's I talk a little bit fast because I don't want to bother you guys too much with anything, but yeah. Any questions there, Charles? Do you know?
Yeah, I always get questions. I'm really interested, and you can return to this later on, but I'm interested in hearing back to that sort of convexing funnel of estimates, because that's something that we changed, and you know, because we were typically running into that problem as well. So now we have this similar thing where we just estimate in chunks and that's it. We don't go too far out. So I'd be interested in hearing how you tackle that and what kind of client pushback you get from that as well. So, but you don't have to dive into it now.
Yeah, I think it's all about getting your client to see what you're doing. So our software is also really geared to pulling our client in, show them literally there is no time or no room for any other requirement. So, or you have to wait for a week or sit on it. And if you can manage the expectations a bit better, I think you run into a lot less problems. But let's go to the demo. If I click here, I probably go to the website. Yes, and let's log in. Again, it's work in progress, guys. So if I run into problems somewhere, bear with me. One of my technical colleagues is here as well. So if we have questions or things that are unclear, let me start from scratch here. The dashboard. We have put some stuff on here, but we're discussing still. I want to see tickets that concern my projects. My clients have pushed tickets on here. I want to see them showing up so I can respond to it real quickly. Or if I have somebody on the phone and I have to create a ticket for them, that's a possibility too. I want to see recent comments. Some people are working probably with Trello. I don't know if anybody knows, but in Trello you can make stories or tasks, and you can put your comments out on there. If those comments are made, I want to see them here, right? Because we want to see on what project items my clients are evaluating and maybe adding more files to it, etc. And then some news facts. Yeah, that's maybe there, maybe not. I don't know. That's more for internal use with the team. Hey guys, I found something new. Do you want to see it? Here it is. On admin level, we can set some clients. I can upload users, I can upload clients, and from there on I can just add any project I like. Currently I have this client, Lorem Ipsum Ltd, selected, and that client has one folder. I hope it's big enough, right? That has one folder with project details in here. With a storyboard, with a Kanban board, with resource planning and project process. I will walk through that step by step. This is a client-related block of navigation, and up here are my tasks. So the things I need to do today, I get to that a little later, and the running projects. So this is for me as a project manager, and if a team member comes in here, he sees his own my tasks, right? Then for the management at the bottom, I want to see the progress of the team. How much hours do they book? I want to see the progress on sprints. And I want to be able to see when invoices are ready to go out. And basically, we base those invoices 100% on a sprint. When a sprint is finished, boom, invoice goes out. That's it. But let's check and let's create a new project for this client lorem ipsum, because that's basically how it starts, right? Like I said, oops, I lost you guys for a second. Am I still there? On my screen, yeah. Okay, here we go. We're still. Can somebody respond?
Yeah, you still have audio, just no video.
I still have audio. Okay, that's my laptop. That's here in the way of my computer. Yeah, so I can start a new project. Like I said, I'm the one who sits with the clients. Like, hey, there's a client manager. His name is.
Jeroen, sorry to interrupt you. I think you stopped sharing your video and your desktop.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back. Yeah, you should. That's correct. Now we're sharing again, right?
Yeah. Great.
Okay, sorry about that. So, when we hit the plus sign with this company, I can add a new project. I can. My client calls me, said, "Okay, we have a new request. We start a new project." Willem calls me. He has a phone number and he has some email. And there is a project title. And let me check if we can grab something real quick from here. Copy. And we call it SplitMate. And SplitMate is a little piece of software. So it's a software development. And the definition of that project is when friends are eating together, they want to split the bill, and the little app helps them split the bill. Well, it already exists, right? But doesn't matter. It's a nice example. We have an internal project manager. We can point to Whimsical. You saw Charles pointed to Whimsical a lot, right? When he's explaining stuff, we use Whimsical. This is, by the way, that design I changed to explain exactly what components we want to use. But oops, go this way. If I paste a Whimsical link in here, it will I will be able to use that as well. I should have a start date, otherwise I can't save. And there we go. And it starts to build a new menu actually on the left side. My project details are there. I can add some documents and a briefing document if you like, any other documents that you like to share in there. And then the real trick starts, right? I'm going to sit down with my client and say, okay, you know what? Let's build some stories. What is going on? And let me quickly go back to the other project of this same client. If we go to the storyboard in general looks like this. On a main level, we have epics, and that means epics are big chunks. Please build me a piece of software, and it should consist of this, this, and this. Those epics are large. It's a login screen for suppliers, and that epic has different stories underneath. So if I want to add a story under an epic, I can simply add a story, save it, and the storyboard will grow nice and neatly. I can add more epics. I click on an epic and I say, okay, the client also wants this and this to happen. And if I save, and you can add comments and documents in itself as well. And then underneath each story, we're going to define tasks, right? So we grab that story and say, okay, to make this happen, what do we need? Well, we need to work on this item. It's going to probably take us 2 hours, and the description for that item is pretty simple, is this. So building a storyboard like that is a co-work situation with your client, right? You're going to try to define with maybe the team of the client, with different teams and different members of the client, you're going to try to find out what that software should look like. Now, let me quickly step back to that SplitMate guy, because that is really nice. But in a world of AI, it would be much nicer if I could use AI to say, okay, hold on, you know, I got my project details. You know what I'm basically trying to build, right? So why don't you give me an advice on what epics normally are used in a split-mate app? And here we go. There should be user authentication, bill input, bill splitting options, tips maybe. Yeah, that's right. Platform integration, user interface, definitely necessary. The other parts, maybe notification system is cool too. Let's add them. Boom, there we are. The epics are built, right? And now we're going to the next step because that bill input, okay, that bill input is quite nice. What kind of stories should there be under that bill input? Well, let's ask AI if they can help us out. We have a nice description in that bill input. So there should be an input of the total amount, the number of participants, of course, that are there. We have to divide it. Okay, it's work in progress, guys. As you can see, there is some kind of timeout. That's like Charles said, AI is sometimes killing us a bit on the timeout issues, but no worries. Let's go back. I'm pretty sure the information, and that's cool, right? Because it's not FileMaker. The information is still there, or at least reusable. The epics are still there. We were busy on bill input. Let's ask the AI helper again, and let's give it another try. It should come up with pretty much the same advice, right? Input validation is still there. Bill splitting is still there. Tip calculation is there. Let's add them. Boom. 3 stories there. And that even bill splitting, how much tasks or what tasks should there be? I mean, it's just a memory thing or a helper, right? I mean, it doesn't mean this is it, but it can help us define basically the project as such. So there must be a user interface and maybe some API connections. Maybe you want a functionality for adjusting the bills when somebody says, okay, poor guy, you don't have to pay that much. So there we go, you see, and then we get these review the time estimate because we didn't ask the API yet to tell us how much time this will cost. What we're going to do here, by the way, is we're going to introduce a Scrum Poker. What we're going to do is when I sit with a team, I will hit the button and say, guys, give me your estimation. And everybody that's online will put his number in, and we get back the number and divide it by the number of team members that are there. And then it will pop up like, okay, we probably need 3 hours. If I want to look into it, I can see the breakdown and say, okay, Ashish, why did you tell me 8 hours? And Shubham, why did you say 2 hours? That's quite a difference, right? So that is basically how it's done in this agile kind of work, so that you can see now the time is nicely and neatly filled. So let's say 7 hours. Here, save it, and this one as well. By the way, you can see that in many discussions with the client will say, okay, you know what, let's not do that in this release. I'm not sure if my Zoom works. Does my Zoom work when
no, it'll stay zoomed out, just local.
Okay.
But we can
so this is a this release, and this is the next release part, right? Normally there's a line in between here. I don't know what happened to it, but normally it shows up. So we can drag stuff to the next release. Oh, maybe it's my AI helper that's blocking. No, okay. Of course, we don't need the AI helper, right? I can also make my own task here. That's perfectly fine. By the way, these colored icons here says, is it a logic task or is it a task for my client? We can also put client tasks in here. Doesn't make really sense to put time in a client task, by the way, but those are the fine details that we have to work upon. Once we have filled that storyboard, which is the basic first step, we can actually do the next step. We go, this is what I did with my client, right? And remember that slide, I said, okay, now we go to the orange part. I'm going to talk to the team. So I'm going to the Kanban board and talk with the team and say, okay, guys, oh, sorry, no, the hours I talk with the team, I say, oh, how much time for this, how much time for that. And then I go back to my client basically and says, okay, client, let's define a sprint. Let's do a week 35 on probably 36 already, 36, 37 sprint here. Shantanu is going to be the Scrum Master. And at that moment, I can drag parts in that sprint. And as soon as that is done, I can define the next sprint also. So when I'm talking to the client, I say, okay, you know what, that's nice, but let's reserve that for week 37. And that's what I mean. We need to teach our clients that there are everything can be done, but not in one day, right? So you can split it up nice and neatly. And then we go to the next step, because with the client, I've done my planning. Now I have to go back to my team again. And I say, team, okay, guys, in the next sprint, we have a couple of items to cover. Jeroen, can you do this? And you can see that there was already an item in there. And that's what I mean. If we give our client insight also in what should be done and or how much room we have, you again can teach the client that okay, I can do this thing for you, but maybe not. I don't want to work 8 hours today, so let's put that back on there. 1.5 hours. I'll give that to Ashish, and maybe Ashish can help me out. There we go. So we basically drag items in that calendar. Later on, I want to hook it up to Google Calendar, of course, but also give the opportunity for my team to say, okay, I'm off on that day, right? So his day is blocked, or I'm only available for a half day. So we can actually drag items in there. And once that is done, remember I told you guys, I don't want a project estimate. We talk about project progress. And the project progress will show, okay, I haven't filled my board now, but it will show the progress nice and neatly over the period of time, right? So it will show the progress in weeks ahead. So if I can plan sprints, I can show the people, right, guys, we're working on this item for the next couple of 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then we pick up this for 2 weeks. And then we basically show them the progress on what's going on. And maybe, I'm not sure if here isn't, the progress is a nice chart. No, I should, let me think. Can I put a story? Let's put another story in real quick. Let's do it here. Da-da-da-da. And we go to the we go to the Kanban board. It has to be in a sprint, right? So, oops, that's a client part. I put this one in the sprint. You can, by the way, see that who's working on the card, right? Or who if a card is planned. So this card is nicely planned. This card is planned in 2 people. This card is unplanned, so it should show up here in my resource planning. There it is. And let's go to the next week and plan it. For Duxit over here. There's something going on here. You see a card disappearing. That is a little hiccup. But now, hopefully, look, there we go. Now you see, because my week was, my card was further down in the week, we can see that this actually starts, this sprint, sorry, this story starts at the 30th, takes about 5 days duration, and it will be, and 2 out of 3 items are nicely booked, and we can showcase how many tasks are done and not done, etc., etc. How much further must I go? In the end, I, of course, oh yeah, sorry, go back. The projects are nicely defined here. It will showcase progress and everything. We're still working on it. And of course, my tasks. I want to see every morning, what do I need to do? And on Friday, today I'm pretty busy. As I can see, I will pick up my first task, click on it. What will you do? I will do this and this. Is it billable? Yes, it's billable. it's maybe already 50% there. It depends on really, and boom, my clock starts to run, right? And that's it. I can leave the screen, I can move over, I can close the browser, I can come back, and it will nicely and neatly keep on keeping track. And in the end, in my sprints, I will exactly see how much time we booked, how much hours we did, and I can invoice every week, every 2 weeks, nice and neatly to clients. And yeah, that's basically a wrap on what we do here. Before you go off, Charles, let me go back to the presentation, because like I said, Scrum Poker is something we like to add. Connection to iCal or whatever. Also a connection to Calendly, so that I can showcase my client. Okay, if you have if you want to book something, book us. Boom, they prepaid. It gets in the calendar. They can see what is available and what not, and we don't have to worry about invoicing anymore, right? And then important part, we need a log file, filter on epic stories and tasks, exactly know what happened, right? What happened, what happened with what task or what epic, who changed it, who, well, and there's probably much more, and that's open for, oh yeah, we need a name for the app. We don't have it yet. I did register Scrumban, maar that's it. And we're open for remarks, questions, and anything. And it was all built in BetterForms. That's important, right? And yeah, I can showcase in the backend the FileMaker application, right? Which is, hold on if I can see it. I'm sorry, this one. Which is nothing basically. It's one screen or a few screens, but in the back end, oops, hold on. It's a simple, it's an extremely small graph, right? And this is basically there only to help us out in the back end to look at some relationships, and if we kill a project, kill some other stuff, right? But it doesn't have to be there. So if you look at the scripting, it's basically very simple. Also, yeah, the AI part is in here. It's a set of the traditional whole bunch of pages and links and everything there. So it's all scriptable. It's all scripted. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Gotta take a second because it's a fantastic app, first of all. Like, I'm just looking at some of the comments and things, and I think it's a really, really amazing job. And it's a beautiful showcase of addressing a problem and distilling it down. We use Teamwork internally, and Teamwork is one of these apps that was built for everybody, and they keep adding more and more features, and it becomes more and more bloated and huge. And you're like, to see tasks is actually kind of challenging. To schedule it's crazy powerful, but really hard to use as well. So amazing use case and implementation. Really, really beautiful UI as well. There's some questions that came up. What happens if unexpected bugs or tasks come up that need immediate attention, because that would affect resource planning? Stuart asks.
Yeah, what I always try to do is make sure that nobody is booked for 8 hours a day, right? So you need air in your resource planning. And you might even choose to have somebody specific on that task, right? Because there are also very much operational tasks in a company, and somebody can basically do the two tasks, right? Being operational, maybe marketing activities aside, and then do some bug fixing, etc. So you need some multi-function or multi-talented people in your company that can maybe do that. Yeah. But especially use air. I mean, and again, it's the time booking or the booking. What we're doing with this system is not meant to force people to do it right there and then. I didn't showcase, but there is a little circle on that line that says, okay, replan my task so that something that's done today can be easily set to another day. So they are becoming responsible for their own agenda, basically.
I really like the use case of AI in helping to identify the subtasks and keep drilling down to whatever degree of sort of granularity that you want. I think that's a really, really neat use case. And I think you could actually use, once you've used this for half a year and you got hundreds and hundreds of points in there, you could look at even using that for fine tuning and just to word things exactly how you want and have it dial in a little bit more for your particular use case. For example, we're all FileMaker developers here,
Right.
but if somebody wasn't a FileMaker developer, it might, like, there's different tasks that are uniquely associated with a FileMaker developer that wouldn't be with somebody else, like say installing it on server or updating a certificate or doing these kinds of things.
Yep.
So you could probably drill it in even more. Where else do you plan on going in terms of AI in the app?
I'm already pretty happy where we are right now with this level of interaction, especially on client level. Maybe again we can identify tasks and say, okay, do the Scrum poker, but let AI be a part in that Scrum poker. AI, tell me how much time do you think it should be in here?
Can you explain, Jeroen, what Scrum poker is?
Yeah. Scrum poker is basically a call out to your team members when you discuss a task and say, guys, tell me how much time do we need to solve this task? And you basically give everybody the opportunity to respond, but you do that not anonymously, but without them knowing what the other response is, right? So you can do it in a call. But then Ashish will say 8 hours, and then Shubham will say, yeah, I'm not going to say 2 hours because he said 8 hours, so I'm probably going to say 7 hours, right? So we want to do it independently so that we get real data back, and then we're going to take a look at that and say, okay, guys, Shantanu said suddenly 12 hours. Tell me, why do you think 12 hours? Which is a perfectly fine answer, but then we know why.
Right. Because it could be something else that they've identified. Oh, well, this is the thing, and everybody else might even have missed it. So they could actually be more accurate.
Correct.
So it's really just a technique then to get estimates from across the team for the most part. Right.
And it can be really easy with a pop-up in your screen. They type in a number and boom, that's it. Yeah.
I'd like to hear what is everybody else using for project management. I mean, it's usually a notepad if you're just a single developer, but what else are people using in terms of tracking especially if you have more than one person on your team?
Have you used Trello?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're using Jira, the free version of Jira, because we have less than 10 people that need access.
Have you used Trello?
How do you like Trello?
Yeah, we've been using Trello, and Trello, first of all, Trello is narrowing it down if it comes to free. It's not so free anymore. So if you have a lot of clients, turns out that Trello says, okay, too much boards, and then you have to open up another channel with more boards, and it's scaling down now. So they don't give you that much room anymore. And Trello means you go from board to board, right? So there is not many or much interactivity between those boards and a good overview, and you have to hook it up. We did hook up, we have a connector for Trello. We hooked it up to FileMaker. We pulled in all the Trello items. We started to drill them down to tasks and hook them up to the tasks. And so Trello is used a lot, but just because also Trello became a situation where my clients couldn't log in anymore because they said, yeah, I had a free Trello, but I kicked it out because I have to pay now. We decided we come up with our own system, and it's like a Trello board, right? The Kanban board is like a Trello board, except in your Trello board, you can make columns as you go along, as many as you like. But I think for our purpose, it's not necessary at all. It's quite simple. You have a backlog, you have a sprint, and you have a review, and you're done. And that would probably 99% of the time work pretty fine. unless you start to misuse the Trello board, not for a Kanban purpose, but for a resource planning kind of thing, that everybody has his own column. Every person has his own column, and you start dragging tasks into columns that are named Jason, Alex, and Ryan. But that's basically not how you should use it, or how it is originally used.
We use ClickUp, and it works really well for us. They've built a bunch of AI stuff into it, but I've just never really messed with that part. But we use it for all of our project management, but then also all of our time tracking, and ClickUp gets pushed back into FileMaker for all of our billing. So it all kind of works together with what we do.
Yeah.
Brad, what made you
ClickUp.
decide to use ClickUp over, say, Notion or something like that?
Honestly, there was another guy that was on for a while. He's no longer with us, but he kind of became like a project manager, and he chose it. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason why we stopped ClickUp is because I want to be able to share data with my client, and to give client access to your ClickUp is not doable. You can share a view, but there's no way you can interact with that view with your client. So the moment I found out that that was the case, I didn't want to make all my clients users in ClickUp. We said goodbye to ClickUp as well.
Well, I don't know if we're just talking about two different things, or if it's changed, but like I can share my boards with my clients as guests for free, and they can go in, they can add tasks and stuff for me. A lot of them don't. A lot of them prefer just to email me, but certainly they can collab with me on this stuff as guest users for free. But maybe that's different than when you used it, or maybe you're trying to do it a little bit differently than we are. I'm not sure.
Well, let's say you cannot move tasks around, right? Or sprint or stories around on that board. It's just a view, and they can add something to it, and that's it, I think, right?
I mean, that's how we use it. So I guess I don't know exactly. But
That's
what
pretty
you're
much
describing, how we use it, they go in, they say, here's a few things that I need, and then I go in
Yeah.
and look at it and work through it.
I found it too much a limit, but I agree with you. ClickUp was the last software we used, and it is still in use with us until this software is ready. We still use it, but it's probably one of the best. Yeah.
How long have you been working on your app, approximately?
Ashish is also with us. Ashish, when did we start? 7, 8 months ago?
Yes, around 7 to 8 months ago. It
And
was just a plan,
Sorry,
as
go ahead.
Aaron said, like it was just a plan to come up with a new idea with internal tracking, internal project management, because as he mentioned, like we were struggling with a lot of system, and we have tried a lot of system in the FileMaker, in the ClickUp as well, in the Trello as well, and nothing works for us.
Right.
How
So
did
yeah,
you-
7
Sorry, go
months is a long time, but it's getting there step by step.
And this step-by-step process, so did you have a sort of a clear vision of where you wanted to go, or just kind of discover things and it's like, okay, I want to incorporate, because you have lots of different elements. I mean, you have the story system, right, with epics and stories, and then you also have a scheduling aspect, which is the one that I think is brilliant. I haven't seen any software that does that, but I'm sure there might be. I'm not sure, but and then there's the whole task generation. So was that sort of all a vision from the beginning, or did you kind of hone it in?
No, that was pretty much vision from the beginning. AI came in, of course. We started out with the project planning, and then I started to reread my agile documentation, and I suddenly went like, hold on, we're not gonna do any project planning at all. We're gonna call it project process. So we took it down a notch, right? So instead of right away after the story say to the client, this is the planning, we just put it on the bottom and said, this is the progress, you can look at it, that's enough. So we're gonna reteach our clients a bit on how we work, and up to now they accept it, I must say. Yeah.
So it's interesting because you design your software to solve a few problems. It solved the task assignment, the tasks and everything like that, but it's really to manage the way you interact with the clients so that
Correct.
they interact in a good process that's beneficial for you.
Yeah. And
Right.
in near future, I hope to share with you guys the board that a client will look at, and there we hopefully can see that's the one point of entrance I need for my client. If he wants something, he needs to go there and do his thing, right? And I don't want them to call me anymore. I don't want them to mail me. We don't accept any other input than through that board, and I think that's the only way to to keep track of things and keep everything a bit in line.
It's exciting. Really, really. What about your UX? How did you that kind of all came from your vision to, because it's very consistent through the whole app. It's got the same look, feel. We don't always see that, you know, especially something that, I mean, even apps that we're working on, the designers, like we have one app, another product that we have outside of BetterForms, and there's there's two designers who work on it, Pearson and another designer, Anna, and you can see there's a bit of an evolution. Like they're not even that consistent through, and they're sort of evolving to this different interface, and we're going back and changing these ones. Yours seems super consistent all the way through.
Yeah, it's the design system at once. That's one thing, and the other one, and the team members will agree that I'm a neurotic idiot when it comes to pixel perfect stuff, and I just can't handle different colors, different sizes, different locations, not in line, blah blah blah. I go crazy. So basically, that's what happened.
You know, in the BetterForms editor, there's a little leave feedback. If you see things that it's like, this is really annoying, because we don't always see stuff, right? Like, but we're super open to change. All of that stuff automatically goes into our own internal project tracker. We triage those things, and then we say, okay, what are we gonna attack next? And eventually you will get an email that it's gotten completed. Typically it's months down the road, but it will get addressed.
Right.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments?
I'm curious, anybody needs software like this, or are we building it for ourselves? Because then I can just cut it off, right, and say like, it is a Loggix project, that's it.
Yeah, I can speak for our team. We definitely need that. Michael says he needs it as well.
Yeah, we need it.
All right. So he's going to send us a PayPal link.
we're gonna move on, and before the end of the year, try to come up with version number 1, and yeah.
Super exciting.
You guys. Yeah.
Charles, you could add it as a paid service to all of your customers.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because some of the things we didn't really talk about it today, but one of the near-term projects in the roadmap is AI generated changelog, for example. So you can see change logs and AI generated diffing. Where people have always wanted diffing, like what changed from here to here? I can't see what changed. And the AI can tell you in a nice English language kind of thing, or whatever language, readable language, that, oh, you've added this, but you changed this calculation, and this might be where the problem is. So you could do these diffing and things like that. It's not exactly the same kind of thing as an added service, but those kinds of ideas we're definitely looking at.
Jorn, one of the things I realized, so one of the things with Jira and with all the online systems, it's very easy to insert screenshots, other things. Can your system handle all of that?
Yeah, you can drag and drop and add items to stories, add items to epics, add items to tasks. We have it hooked up now to AWS 3A, or what it's called, or the buckets of AWS. So we take care of the heavy handling through AWS and not inside FileMaker. So pretty much all these, because I had extremely a lot of experience with Trello, and I would like I wanted the same kind of experience of Trello, and And that's what we're trying to achieve here as well. There are some small things still to do. I don't want to overkill it, but again, adding comments, adding items, documents, and anything goes. Yeah.
Yeah, because like one of the things that I use a lot of in Jira is if I have to insert some code that I've written, they have like a code formatting. Is that available in your thing?
Not really, but I'm pretty sure Ashish is now taking note.
I use code formatting a lot in there in case I need
I can
to
imagine.
store a piece of code that I've written outside of FileMaker directly, so that if I need to reference it, I can go, oh, this is what I did.
Yeah.
So for something like that, Stuart, you can actually do that really easy in BetterForms. You can basically use Markdown, and you can also, there's three technologies. Markdown is one of them. So you can put things in code blocks. HTML is another one. They can be working together. And then you can format that with, like, say, Tailwind Pros. And if you look at our AI assistant, the stuff that comes back from the assistant is actually formatted, and the AI can actually generate like buttons and things right in that, all dynamically, because of that those technologies. So if you ever want to put something like a code block in and separate it with backticks, or 3 backticks is a common one, you can certainly do that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Jeroen, you had mentioned you don't want to bloat it, and like I'm going to share my screen real quick here, and I just want to make sure there's nothing critical on here. I don't think there is. It's just all BetterForms stuff. It's all internal stuff. So this is our internal project management. We use Teamwork, and this is all of our project list. We just had a deployment, so there's some items left from the deployment, but these are all the tasks, and these are all upcoming features that we're working on, and so on. And it gets really daunting. Like, it got out of hand. It had 500 items on here. We had one of our team members worked on it for like 3 months, and they got it down to like 270 or something like that. And Hassan's since taken it over, and he's like really, really just killing it with this, because now we only have a few items. Like, there's not crazy amounts of stuff, but it's so easy for this to get bloated. And then you get comments, and then the comments can go so deep, and you have all of this information, I feel. And honestly, I feel like I personally just want to stop looking at it sometimes. And I'm wondering, like, your app sort of takes a little bit more, I don't mean this negatively, like a simpler, cleaner approach to that. And how do you going to manage the future of the growth of the app to not have it become bloated?
Well, that's exactly why I needed a simpler system to make sure that we force almost ourselves to organize it in a different way. And I think by looking at that storyboard and cutting up in better chunks, we can select. I didn't show you, but at the planning, at the resource planning, you can, and also in the Kanban board, you can select sprints. So we can filter immediately on small chunks and say, okay, guys, we're not going to discuss anything else but this sprint currently, right? And then you can drag it in. And anything outside that sprint, we don't care. So I think it's pretty much a matter of drilling it down to small pieces, and making sure that it's that is, and getting rid of stuff. We archive functions, that sort of stuff. If a sprint is done, it's done. It's disappearing from our screen. It goes into an archive. So yeah, it's a good. It's a good practice. We should see, Charles, in future if it works like this. Otherwise, we need to refurbish it a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Question. You showed us the back end, which is essentially just the tables with a little bit of schema in it. Do you anticipate when this is all said and done that 100% of the interface will remain through BetterForms, or do you see some of your internal people using a FileMaker interface to access some of the features or functions?
No, we're trying to not touch FileMaker at all. It's just a database schema basically for us.
Can you give a little bit of your reasoning for that? I'm just sort of curious, not questioning. I'm just curious for the reasoning.
Yeah, I think if we start doing, especially when it's a SaaS product, there might be a reason that you can say, okay, I want to see clients and their invoicing parts and et cetera, and then we start maybe using FileMaker as a backend part. But for now, as long as we can do it in a front end situation, I prefer to do that. Just to keep it clean, fast, secure. Yeah, especially when it comes to SaaS product, we got whole different ball game when it comes to security and all kinds of and data integrate or data. What do you call it? Personal data and stuff like that. So I want to keep that a closed box, basically, if possible. So because we believe we can manage security much better from the front.
I could chime in a little bit as well, because BetterForms, the editor part anyway, runs in a similar fashion, and we don't have any UI in FileMaker at all. We do have a little bit of utility UI, like just basically a page that our dashboard is just quick links to the tables, the raw tables, so you can look something up or change some data, because you always have to do that in the database. And our admin panel, for the most part, is a web app as well, separate web app, and that just interacts. And it's not a fancy or pretty, or it's just an ugly one like your typical FileMaker thing. We just whipped it up quick, and we don't maintain it all that much, just what we need. But that works fairly well for us. Like, we don't need any more UI. I don't think so anyway, within FileMaker for that.
And I think Charles and me had a little discussion 2 weeks or 1 week ago in the Slack on what the future will bring. I think in the end, in the near future, maybe even, we're talking about databases, connectors, and front ends, and that's about it, right? And the integration of a front end into a database, I basically think that's past tense. It's not a model that will last way much longer, I believe.
Lots of stuff there. I'm going to just finish up our recording, and then we'll have our quick draw here. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. The recording will be available next week sometime, and thanks again.